Hello, welcome back to Leicester Fan TV. This is the Fox's Focus Show. We're discussing all things Leicester, and joining me today is Simon. Hello, Simon.
Good evening to you, Jono. How are you, mate?
Not bad, thank you. And Ayup says Dorco. So, we've had 4 games in the season now. We've won 3, lost 1. I reckon 1 out of those 4 games was convincing, which was the Birmingham game. So what are your thoughts have been about the season so far for Leicester City?
Good. I think, you got Cifuentes coming in late. He's not had a full pre-season. It's going to take him some time, Jono, to get his ideas into the players' heads and get the kind of... I mean, the other thing he's obviously got a big challenge with is the kind of spirit around the squad, which was a bit destroyed from the bad season last season. He's had to pick the pieces of that up and try and put it back together and get them back into a winning mindset. I think as the games go on, Jono, you can see Cifuentes' character and philosophy of football starting to bleed into the players and the performances. And for me, that game on Friday, just to kind of finish that first group of games before the international break off was the most positive thing I've seen at the King Power Stadium in a while.
I mean, yeah, after the game, a lot of people were saying we played a bit poor, but Birmingham were really poor. That's why we won. I don't think of it like that. I thought it was a game where, again, every player put in the effort, but we kind of had a cohesion. Every player understood what each player was doing. That Fataru goal was, again, the difference maker. Fataru, brilliant. That finish was just sublime. The fact they didn't fall over again was I thought he fell over and slipped and it went to top left corner, but no, it wasn't. It was a great goal. And Monga, there's 3 players in this team that are going to keep us fighting for the title, and that's Monga, Fataru, and Stolarczyk. I thought Monga was brilliant when he came on as well. Yeah,
I think he probably did more in 15, 20 minutes than Mavididi did in the preceding 70, 75 minutes. He obviously set the second goal up, and it's less. It sticks out sometimes a little bit less with Monga. He's more subtle in what he does. If Mavididi goes around 2 or 3 players and scores a goal, that's pretty obvious. But it's a little bit more sublime. But I would say that at the minute there must be a little bit of a push and pull in Cifuentes' mind as to who's going to start down the left, because the commitment for me was the word on Friday night, in terms of we showed we demonstrated we wanted to win. We were committed. We were passionate. The likes of Chowdhury, the way he played, I thought was outstanding. And that type of mentality, I thought Ayew was great on Friday, chasing them down and setting the tone from the front. It felt like the mood had switched a bit, but Mavididi was a little bit off colour on Friday and didn't really contribute masses. And you'd imagine that in Cifuentes' head now, he's probably debating which one of the 2 starts. And of course, we've had new players come in since.
For me, I am extremely happy the transfer window has ended, because maybe Mavididi was thinking about moving away. Maybe there might have been a few rumours for him leaving. Maybe his head wasn't in it. Obviously, there's been no rumours at all of him leaving, but maybe he was thinking he could have left. But I think Mavididi, I think, is a really good player. On his day, he's a very, very good player, but he's not been in form for a while. I don't think he's been at his best since Enzo left, arguably. But I agree with what a lot of people are saying. I think Monga is a very, very good impact sub. He's the sort of player if you're a championship team, you do not want to see him coming on the 70th minute. Because I think Mavididi is a very good overall player at controlling the game and having more experience. But when you need that difference maker in that last 20 minutes when their defenders are tired, I prefer Monga to come on then, rather than him starting the game.
Yeah, and it helps him, to settle in. He was kind of pushed in last season, I believe, as much as anything, as a bit of a distraction from Van Nistelrooy, in terms of he was getting a lot of heat from the fans and the media about the results, and kind of bringing one of the youngest players ever to play in the Premier League in and starting him kind of took the attention away a little bit and pushed it somewhere else and gave him a little bit of breathing space for a game or two. I don't want to see him rushed in too quickly, and
No.
there's obviously a lot of expectation on him because of his ability. I think it kind of suits that he's, at least for the time being, like you say, he plays from the bench and plays cameo roles and eases his way into first team football. He's still a kid after all. He's a very young lad.
I'm going to give another player their limelight because I know all of us talking about Mongo and Taru, but Solarchik has been an absolute godsend. He, ever since Hermanson left, you would think that we that West Ham got the better keeper, but I think so far Solarchik has been absolutely immense. I think he's made unreal saves. He's kept us in games. He controls the box. He catches the ball really well. He's very good with his feet. He plays for the back really well. He stays really calm and collected, and he's young. I think he's been absolutely immense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as a shot stopper, he's as good as anything. We've had in goal for a while. He's every bit as good as Hermanson at that, and his positioning for set pieces and corners and whatever. Fine. His distribution, I question a little bit, John. If I'm honest,
he kicks it out. He kicks it out. He kicks out the pitch a few times, doesn't he?
Casper
did that, didn't he? Casper did that.
But he also kicked it to the opposition right in front of the box on Friday as well, and put us under the pump. And I think that's the thing that Cifuentes and his team have got to work on with Stolarczyk is he's got to learn to pick his pass a little bit more intelligently and play the safe game. I know it's fashionable to roll or kick the ball 2 yards to the fullback and play out from the back and all that, but sometimes it's not on. So don't do it. Don't put us under pressure. It's no different from when Maresca was in charge a couple of seasons ago, and we nearly shot ourselves in the foot a few times. It feels a little bit similar at times, and for me, I'd rather he was just a little bit more on the safety side with his distribution. If it goes out, fine. No one's going to hammer him unless it's going out every single time.
But don't pass it to a defender, to a striker, 10 yards in front of the box.
If he's in the vicinity of the player you're going to pass to, don't pass there in the first place. Just pick something else.
Definitely. Dorky said, I hope they don't typecast Mongo as a winger. If they give him half an out throw, maybe find Little Gem as a striker. Then Matthew said, Mongo's definitely a winger. I agree with Matthew. I don't think Mongo should be anywhere near the middle of that pitch. I think he causes more disruption on the wing, like you saw it against Birmingham. The fact that he cut back and that simple cross into Ricardo was beautiful, and I think he thrives more as a winger. I couldn't see him down the middle.
Well, whilst I don't disagree with you, we are going to have to find someone to play the 10-hole.
Mavididi, I think Mavididi as a cam and Mongo as a winger would be my go-to. I thought Mavididi would be quite good as a cam.
It's worth a go. I mean, there's a few options there, isn't there? I mean, we talked last week. You can go Ayew behind Daka or Ayew behind Carranza. Now
Daka should not start. No. Daka should not start.
Well, we got Carranza now. And he's a little bit of a unknown quantity because his history is a couple of seasons in the MLS, season before that in Argentina, and then obviously he's had that one season at Feyenoord where the stats aren't well beaten. Let's be honest. But I've watched a bit of YouTube with him, and he's fairly robust. He's quite a stocky character. He's got some strength. He certainly knows where the goal is. You can see that from some of the footage. He's got a shot on him, and he's decent. So maybe there's an argument for that. Then you've got Mavididi. Mongo is another option. I guess Jordan James, who's just joined the club, who's a bit more of a number 8 KDH type centre midfielder. Maybe he's an option. I don't know, but if we're going to stick with this formation, with El Canous gone, either we carry on with the kid we've been playing the last couple of games to tread water until we figure it out, or we start to find someone else in that squad who's going to start to play that role. Because I think that's for me, it's the kind of question mark over the squad and who plays there.
Definitely. Before we move on to the next thing, let's just talk. How would you rate, considering that when we sacked Ruud, Marty came in, what would you rate the season so far from when he joined to this international break? What would you give Leicester's season so far out of 10, considering what your expectations were before the season started?
Well, if you lay the backstory to that, there's a looming overhanging points deduction, stroke fine, stroke whatever that clearly must. It's not gone away, so it's got to be in the back of the mind. We were late to the party signing the manager because of the complications with sacking Van Nistelrooy, allied with other things maybe we don't know, which the club will tell you was them sorting out Cifuentes getting out of QPR. Whether that's true or not, we'll probably never know, and it doesn't really matter. So he's had a short pre-season with them. We've got this points deduction looming. We've had to trim the squad to appease PSR. There's also a chunk of players within that squad that in their own heads are better than the Championship and have clearly been less than themselves, is probably the polite way to put it, especially while the transfer window's been open and there's been opportunity for them to go. So on the backdrop of all of that, I would give this a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's been a decent start. 3 wins out of 4, and that performance on Friday for me really filled me with some hope. So I'm happy. Jono, what about you?
I'm going to agree with you and Gary, and I think an 8. I think considering Marty's headaches of players leaving, who's going to stay, who's going, who's coming in, who's whose head's turned. Oh, I know. Let's throw the points deduction on top of his head. Oh, let's only have 2.5 weeks of pre-season before the season starts. Well, as soon as he arrives, he flies to bloody Poland to do wherever they went to do their pre-season. With all of that in mind, the fact that he's got these players playing in a sort of formation and sort of playing style and confidently, and we see it paying off. I've given it an 8. I think he's done extremely well. I mean, we're going to talk about transfers now, but I'm very, very happy. I'm going to go back to Neil's comment. Do you think Harry Winks will feature? Now, I'm so happy the transfer window has ended because players like Winks and Wout Fast. I know you said the Turkish league is still open for their transfer window, but Harry Winks, I hope he settles because he's staying. I hope he can, stop spitting his dummy on the floor and actually grow a pair and play the way he can. Because if he plays the way he did, like he did in the 23-24 season, he could be a really important player for us this season.
Yeah, we've got options now with this Jordan James coming in. Who, if you listen to the Birmingham fans, they talk very highly of him. And if you read up on it, the reason he left Birmingham wasn't because they didn't want him; it's because they needed to liquidate him and get some money at the time. Because they got relegated into League One. So you've got him in the mix. You've got Samari, who I thought markedly improved on Friday night. I thought
it was very good.
Yeah, he was worthy of his place. You kind of went home thinking, yeah, he played well, and it made sense him being picked. And there's other times he plays where you can't fathom out why he's been picked at all. But I think he's warming into this season, Samari. I think he's starting to settle down. And maybe he's starting to buy a little bit into the manager's philosophy and what the manager wants from him. So that helps. So you've got that kind of going on. And then you've got Skip, who played better Friday. If I'm honest, I looked at him Friday and thought, actually, yeah, you've gone up a peg or two here tonight. You're playing a bit better, and he looked like he had a bit more confidence. So credit to Skip and the manager for kind of improving things. But for me, Winks is a better player than Skip. He does more. He's more creative. He transitions the game better. I kind of fancy, in some ways, Winks and this Jordan James lad together in the middle. With Winks as kind of more of the backstop in front of the defence, and then James allowed to kind of run a bit like when we had KDH and Winks in there.
Yeah.
That feels right to me. I think that could really work. But you're right, Winks has got to get his head right and move on now because he's there until at least Christmas.
Exactly that. I'm just going to run through the players just to recap, the players that we let go in the summer transfer window and the players that we brought in. So the players that ended their loan season was Edouard, who was I think the worst loan signing we've ever signed in human history. Aaron Ramsey and Buonanotte. Those are the 3 players we let go and then their loan. We've let Will Alves, Koulibaly, Jamie Vardy, Danny Ward, and Everson go on Will Alves, Koulibaly, leave on a loan transfer. Jimmy Vardy, Danny Ward, and Everson have left on a free transfer. And the players that we've sold for money was Connor Cody, El Canoes was a loan with an option with a is it obligation to buy? Or was it
I think after so many appearances, they're obliged to buy him for
buy him?
25 million euros, I believe.
So I think he'll reach that. So 3 million now and 25 once he plays that many games. 8 million for Wilfred Ndidi, 9.3 million for James Justin, 13.9 million from Casey McAteer, and 20.8 million for Mads Hermansen. So in transfers alone, we've made just over 55 million pounds. Now, and the players we've brought in is Julian Carranza, Jordan James, Aaron Ramsey, and the backup keeper of Begovic. So we got rid of a lot of players, only brought in a few. So do you think Leicester's done good or bad business?
I like the window, John. I think we needed to trim the squad both for financial and just for Cifuentes. I mean, Cifuentes has alluded to the fact that he quite likes working with a smaller group of players. He doesn't like this immense squad where there's people on the periphery that really never stand a squeaker getting in the first team. They're just turning up for training every week and they're not even on the bench. So I think he likes that kind of smaller nucleus. He likes that kind of togetherness. And of course, we're in a league below now. The financial structure of that league is a lot different to the Premier League. So we have to trim things, because if we don't, we'll get to the end of the year, we'll submit our accounts and they'll tell us we've broken the rules again. So a line's got to be drawn somewhere. And the James Justin business, for example, I thought was good business. I'm not saying, I'm not saying he's not been a good servant to the club, but he's in the last year of his contract. He's injury prone. He's going to walk for nothing in the summer, and we get offered decent money. Take the money, get his wages off. We've got enough cover in his position to be all right without him. So I think those sorts of deals are a breath of fresh air, because you go back to that season a few years ago when we got relegated and the likes of Tielemans, etc., are all running their contract down to nothing. We literally just sat there and let them all just have our pants down and check out for the season. So I'm glad we've had the sense to kind of trim things up. So for me, I think it's a good window. What about you?
I think it's a very good window, considering the fact that I love it how Leicester for the first time, Wrexham came in and said, "Oh, we'll take Connor Cody in a free transfer. We'll just pay his wages." Leicester's like, You're not taking Connor Cody on a free. We're actually going to get some money from him. 2.3 million on the table. Got him. Ndidi, I don't think he's been his best since before we got relegated the first time. And 8 million, and he's on the high wages. That's gone. Hermansen, 20.8 million. Again, I know Solatic isn't perfect. As you said, his distribution isn't great. But considering we've got a really good backup keeper and we only got Begovic on a free transfer, you know what I mean? Really good business in terms of goalkeepers. And the fact that I'll go back to the Edouard situation. We got Edouard, he was the worst loan signing ever. I think these 3 loan signings are going to be good. And we didn't buy anyone, and we're not stuck with them forever. So if these transfers don't work out, we don't have to stick with them for the going onwards.
No, and I think that probably alludes a little bit to the club's stature at the minute and the pressure on financially, both in terms of PSR and the general finances, that we've got to live to our means, and we're learning to do that, and that's not a bad thing. And if these players, for example, with the Aaron Ramsey one, I believe there's no option to buy on that loan.
No.
But if we do something special this season, and he plays a significant part in it, why not? It'll be a different ball game if we're back in the big time again next year.
And look at Julian Carranza. He could be, he's 25 years old. He should be, he's not going to be a Jamie Vardy. We all know that, but he's got to be worse than Daka. He's a younger option than Ayew. He can probably play more minutes. He's a better option than him. So it's nice to have another striker up there as another option. Then the only thing in my mind, and you said it before the show started, is that 10, and even this show, that 10. El Canus went towards the end of the transfer window. We haven't really fulfilled that 10 role. We can, we've got options. We can put Mavididi or Monga or Jordan James in there or one of the new transfers, but they're not an all out and out cam. That's the only concern that I have.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a bit of a it's going to be interesting for me to see what Cifuentes does about that, because we have got to make that stick with someone. Someone's going to have to keep make that place in the team their own, and I've got confidence in Cifuentes based on the first few months of his tenure. So I'll back him to figure that out.
What if you were Cifuentes now? If you after looking at the players that have come in, now the transfer window has ended, what would your starting 11 be going? If you were Cifuentes right now going into the Oxford away game, what would your first 11 be?
I think Stolarczyk puts himself in goal. Jono, you play Luke Thomas left back. I think Vestergaard has demonstrated that whilst he is found wanting at times in the Premier League, he is a very good Championship player. We saw that under Maresca a couple of seasons ago, and we're seeing it again this season. And it isn't just defensively; he's also a threat in the box from corners and free kicks. He's a very useful, influential player in the Championship. So I think he's an absolute shoe-in for me in that league. I don't think Okoli's done anything to deserve getting removed from the team. He's looked a little bit bomb scare a couple of times, but by and large, especially on Friday, I thought it was his best game so far this season. I think he's a solid player, so he goes in there for me.
Loads of blocks in.
Yeah, and he's physical. He's got some pace. I think he brings something next to Vestergaard. He brings a bit of insurance, so it makes sense. Right hand side of defence is a little bit of a quandary because you've got Ricardo fit now. Yet Hamza Chowdhury's last two performances, in that position have been outstanding. So you've got to make a decision. Which one do you play? You're probably going to play Ricardo, I'd imagine, if he's fit and firing. He's not only is he club captain, he's also got a wealth of experience. But I'm also a bit aggrieved, or would be a bit aggrieved, to see Hamza Chowdhury get dropped out of the team, given the level of performance that he's given the last couple of games. Centre midfield for me now would be Winks and Jordan James. As long as Winks can get his head right, I think for me that's the right mix. Right hand side picks itself obviously for Taru, best player at the minute for me. He's that bit of brilliance in the team. Left hand side's between Monga and Mavididi. I think for me, for now at least, I'd stick with Mavididi and then bring Monga on from the bench, unless, because I'll be honest with you, this Aaron Ramsey kid who plays left side wing, whilst I've seen him play a couple of times here and there, he's not someone who's massively on my radar. I know he's quick, so he might come into that mix. But for now, I think you stick with them two lads. Then up front, Ayew for now, with Carranza on the bench, coming on 20 minutes, half an hour. It's the 10. Who goes in the 10? It's difficult, Jono. It's difficult. I'm not sure. There's no obvious standout. Obviously, last season we had Buonanotte or El Canoes. This year we got neither. And where does that go? Does the lad that's been doing it the last couple of games stick with it, or do we rotate? We put this Aaron Ramsey left maybe, and put Mavididi down the middle.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I'll do Stolarczyk in goal, Luke Thomas on the left, Vestergaard and Okoli in the middle. I'll go with Chowdhury as a right back, and the reason I'm going with Chowdhury as a guaranteed right back is because I think Ricardo has been much more impactful coming on the last 20 minutes, half an hour, and calming the game down. And as we saw, getting that that brilliant goal that Monga, lined up for him. I think Ricardo, because if we play Ricardo week in, week out, all 90 minutes, I don't feel he'll stay fit. I think he'll get injured. He's very injury prone. So I think having Chowdhury as a solid right back, I think for me, I'll have Soumare and Winks as centre halves. I think Soumare doesn't, after the last game against Birmingham, Soumare deserves to keep his place. And if Winks gets his head straight, I think Winks should definitely be in that role. I think he controls the game much better than any other. The right side for Taru, yeah, absolutely. Ayew at the front. I think he dribbles with the ball really well. I think he attacks midfielders and defence really well. He can push the ball really far up the field. On the left, I'll go Ramsey. He's quick, he's pacey. If you've got Taru on the right, him on the left, their fullbacks are going to be dead by towards the end of the game. And I'll go Page down the middle. I'll go with the same I'll go with Page the same as Birmingham. I think he did a good job. He didn't do so badly where he should be dropped. I think give him another chance. Unless if Juventus comes up with another tactical rotation, I think keep him in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's done nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong. He's done nothing to deserve being dropped. But again, he's a little bit Mongeresque for me in his development. He needs,
Yeah.
maybe off the bench half an hour rather than actually this is all on you, mate. Get out there and make something happen. That's a lot of pressure for a kid. But it remains to be seen. He might grow into it. He might mature into it, and he might relish the challenge.
Dorco says every time I see Monger on the bench, and we know we're not playing our best player, so I'm guessing he's alluding to the fact that Monger should be starting, and Monger is the best left winger. I just feel he's too young to play a full 90 minutes. I think Mabadidi or a more experienced player has the more experience to control the game for a long period of time. I think Monger in the last 20-30 minutes is so much more impactful than he's playing for a full half and a bit.
Yeah, it makes sense to me that Cifuentes is bedding him in piece for piece. He might look at him and think, yeah, we'll get you in there, but let's just break you in a little, rather than just throwing you straight in and going, right, off you go. Just break him into the team. And, with Mavididi, for me, he's hot or cold. He either turns up and he has a 8, 9 out of 10 performance, or he turns up and it's 5 or 6. He's not one of these that's a solid 7 every week. He's either this or this. And at the minute, he's a little bit 5 or 6. Yeah. So it might open a door for Monger to get a chance to start.
I mean, this is a good headache for Cifuentes to have. It's not like last season where we just knew who was going to play in that starting 11 regardless of how they played the game before. He's got a good headache to have. He's thinking, right, this player didn't play so well. I know I can rotate him, or if he played well, he keeps his spot. That's what good competition in a team does to a club. It helps push the team forward because everyone's competing for the same role. Like, look at Tom says, Christensen or Luke Thomas. Luke Thomas has not done anything in my eyes to be dropped. I think he's been brilliant this season so far. He's looked really solid. In previous Premier League seasons, I think he's been a weak link. I've always worried when he was on the left side, but so far he's been really solid.
I think Luke Thomas is our left back. End of. Yeah. For me, I know he's in his last year of his contract, but I can't imagine he's going in the summer. I think he'll sign a new deal. Christensen he's a lot of passion, a lot of thunder, a lot of kind of up and down. But when you distill it out, there's not massive of end product on the end of it. It's a bit. No. It's all kind of effort and not a lot of product to show for it. I thought we last season when the penny dropped and Thomas got picked over Christensen, we improved.
Yeah, definitely. And we forgot about this player. D. Cordova-Reid is back.
Yes, back in training, Jono.
He's back in training. Do you think? I forgot where he plays. He plays as a right wing, doesn't he?
He can play left or right. He can play central as well. So he might come into the number 10 debate, maybe. Yeah. I think I read something yesterday that said the last time he played a season in the Championship, he scored 18 goals. But it was some years ago. I hasten to add, it wasn't recently.
No, but again, he's another experienced Championship player. I know it's been some years, but it's still the Championship. It's still the same league.
I mean, let's be honest, and apologies, but he was a little bit nondescript last season, wasn't he? I mean, he got quite a bit of flack off our fans for being on a fat contract and not really doing anything to earn it. And he scored a goal, I think, for early on. I think at Man United away from memory. I remember being there. But by and large, he did very little, and he was pretty much a waste of a shirt on and off last season. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets in the mix again this year. But because we need someone centrally potentially, it kind of opens an opportunity for him. Maybe we'll see.
Well, I mean, the team is set. The transfer window is closed. It's going to stay as it is. We've just got to see how Cifuentes. I mean, I said before the Birmingham game, this is his first big challenge of the season so far. In my eyes, he passed it with flying colours. He now needs to sit down and properly think what his start 11 is going to be consistently throughout the rest of the season, or at least up until Christmas. And I think so far what he's said to me is, I trust him. I trust his tactics. I trust his team selection. I trust his man management. I think he's dealt with the players really well. and I'm excited to see what we're going to do against Oxford next weekend.
Likewise. I think, that for me, the turning for me was Friday night. That's the first time I've seen us passionate, committed and organised to go and win a game of football. Yeah, fine. There were spells of it where Birmingham had the better of it, but it didn't come to anything.
No.
And we won the ball back, and we were passionate about negating their threat. We were passive last season in them situations. If any team last year had a spell of attacking play against us, we conceded 1 or 2 goals last season every damn time it happened.
Yeah.
It felt like we cared on Friday, and I think that for me is filled me with a lot of optimism. And whilst I think we understand the system Cifuentes wants to play in the style, I think as the weeks and months roll by and Cifuentes gets more and more time with the guys, I think this only gets better for me as we go on.
I agree. I think I'm not expecting to see like a dramatic instant turnaround where we've gone from a pretty poor Premier League team to a very good Championship team. It'll take a long time for us to build up to that, but I'm seeing every game. I'm seeing better improvement. So we need to keep seeing them. But we've come to the end of the show. We're not going to talk about the Oxford game yet. We can talk about that next week. We've got I don't know if we're doing. Well, we might be doing a show. We're doing the show on Sunday. Phil's shows on Monday, and you around next Thursday, Phil?
Yes, mate. Yeah, we'll be back next Thursday, and I guess we'll be talking about the Oxford game and
just the Oxford game. We talked about transfers. There's no
maybe
game this weekend.
I mean, like I say, there's still some windows open around Europe, so it's not over yet. For the likes of Faz, who's had Besiktas in Turkey sniffing around him, there's still opportunity for 1 or 2 still to go to some leagues in Europe. So it's not quite over yet. But,
no.
For me, if Faz did go, I think it's probably the best thing for him and for us.
I mean, if we do lose him, no one's going to really cry in their sleep, are they, over him? So, but overall, I'm being very impressed. But we'll be back next Thursday. We'll be discussing the Oxford game for the following weekend. Thank you so much for joining me, Simon. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, always good to see you on a Thursday, Jono, mate. All the best for the weekend. I'll catch you next week.
You too, man. And don't forget to follow our socials down below. We'll be back on Sunday and Monday. Thank you very much for watching. We shall see you soon.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow us on all socials.